voting as well. Currently, the ballot counting process for electoral subjects will be continuing for 46 centers, more specifically 35 in Tirana. Due to this high number of ballot counting centers that haven't finished counting yet, according to the commissioners, Greek observers have been informed that the counting process will continue after 12 a.m. tonight in order to finish before 9 a.m. tomorrow. The aim is to respect the instruction of the commissioner that across the country, the counting starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the candidates. It must be commended that the CEC has been flexible and followed up the whole process in order to ensure integrity, and in this line,
Cili bënd të mundur që qoftë vendet e numërimit të votave që kanë filluar tashmë.
Ballot counting centers and will be starting at the same time tomorrow, that is 9 a.m., to count ballot papers for candidates. The whole purpose is for the counting to start at the same time across the country in order to avoid any conflicts or future complications due to internal competition of electoral subjects. It must also be commended that the Central Election Commission, that is the State Election Commission, on the day of elections, after the incident in EAZ 30 in Tirana municipality, they decided to abolish the accreditation of all political observers in order to provide new accreditation and to ensure a mature presence of political forces in BCCs. As we have seen, there has been a high number of observers in BCCs, especially unauthorized people that have pressured and increased tension in the situation. However, despite this decision, we regret to say that the high number of people in EAZs has continued. In EAZ 21 in Durrës, there has been a huge confrontation between people. You can see it on the screen. It seems as if we are on a football match, not in a BCC ballot counting center. The majority of people present in this center are unaccredited, unauthorized. For this reason, the main political forces must avoid such situations, and commissions for electoral administration zones must take measures in order not to repeat this process that will be followed up tomorrow when the candidates' ballot counting starts. In BCCs, there should be no unauthorized people. The BCC's premises should provide silence, should provide the necessary environment for the authorized teams to count ballots in a proper manner, to respond on time on an institutional manner regarding different contestations or remarks about the ballot counting process. In such a situation that you saw on the screen, it is impossible to behave institutionally, and it is very possible for the process to end up in a deadlock. As we all know, the final results are pretty much clear, and we expect the majority and the opposition to wait patiently for the end of the counting process by strictly following the rules recommended by the CEC, by providing the necessary formality in BCCs for accredited teams that do their job, be as members of commissions, members of ballot counting teams, observers of political parties, and also observers of independent and international organizations and representatives of the media. Their main aim is for the process to go smoothly, to go rapidly, and for the voters' will to be respected. For this reason, we encourage the CEC to follow up and monitor the implementation of yesterday's order, which is a rational one, because it's not necessary to have a number of political observers unless we're talking about an institutional approach. On the other hand, we would like to add a suggestion for the Central Election Commission. We commend the progress so far and the transparency they have shown, but it would be very appropriate for the website of the CEC that comprises decision making and previous activity should be operational. It is impossible to access any other content or documents but the current results on the CEC official website. Of great concern is the identification of the high number of invalid ballot papers. So far, we have 81,952 invalid ballot papers. Based on our communication through CRIC observers with the commissioners, it was found that generally speaking, these ballot papers are considered as invalid because the voters have marked more than one electoral subject or have voted for a different electoral subject and a different candidate that doesn't belong to that party. There is also a high number which hasn't been determined yet of invalid ballot papers that contain notes. So the box hasn't been marked by the voter properly, but notes have been made on the ballot paper. This is a concerning datum, actually, which must be tackled seriously and earnestly, and we must ensure that these ballot papers are indeed invalid. Even though the legal framework fails to leave room for such thing, we would suggest to the CC, the three steering bodies, to find ways to shed light on this high number of invalid ballot papers and be transparent. We must know that the invalid ballot papers are inside the special envelope in all ballot counting centers, and it is possible to see in reality whether or not these ballot papers are invalid due to lack of information on the part of citizens, which holds the majority, and the CC and CAS and the college accountable regarding the content of the ballot paper, that is, numbers rather than names, the majority actually justified this by saying that due to lack of information among the population, there is a high number of invalid ballot papers. It would have been better for the ballot papers to have contained the name of the candidate. However, at this point, and considering the whole progress when it comes to invalid ballot papers, we raise questions which must be answered regarding the reliability of ballot papers, whether or not they have an impact on the results. Albanian citizens, and especially electoral subjects, must be clear that the ballot papers, whether or not the ballot papers have been confused by the voters on their free will, or the law has been violated by the ballot counting teams, which has happened previously, but this time has been shot on video, who play a role in invalidating certain ballot papers for certain electoral subjects. In this regard, I would like to bring to your attention the low number of invalid ballot papers in EAZ number 40 in Tirana for electronic voting and counting. If we talk about the same level of information, the number of invalid ballot papers is much lower. It is up to 1%. And in other areas, the percentage is 7. So in this regard, from this perspective, we believe that this process must be made transparent. Another concern is related to the progress of ballot counting. Commissioners are tired, and we shouldn't be mentioning this argument anymore. No one, neither commissioners, neither counting teams, nor political parties should use this argument that the commissioners are tired. However, on the other hand, today it was found that in 2 electoral administration zones, on the time when counting was supposed to start, counting teams, so Democratic Party and Socialist Movement for Integration commissioners haven't shown up in Tirana and Girocastra, and the same might, and they might have been withdrawn. The same applied to Patos. The SMI and DP commissioners have left, and the counting process is continuing with only 2 members of the counting team. Even though the electoral code regulates and stipulates that the counting continues with 2 members, we call for all political forces to fulfill their obligations according as defined by the elections code and also as defined by the Albanian people will and the provisions of the constitution and legislation. We call for commissioners not to abandon their duties. There are always losers and winners in elections, but it is not tolerated that due to failing to know rules in a electoral battle, the whole country, the whole Albanian society is disappointed and questions are raised on the election process, on its integrity, due to the failure of commissioners to take part in the counting process as a result of their own beliefs or the parties they represent. Each of these commissioners must fulfill their civic obligation and take responsibility and conclude an electoral process that will mark a good basis for further taking reforms and aspirations with the new parliament. In this regard, the legitimacy of the process is indispensable for starting a new approach that is institutional as defined by law and the agreement on June 5th. Should you have any questions, please feel free to share either on Zoom or Facebook. We are live streaming. I see that there are no questions. Thank you for your attention. We will let you know about tomorrow's conference. It will probably be after 12, but we will let you know and inform you. Thank you.